So what's on the agenda for today is, first of all, if you remember in the other video, I was saying that at DMCC I had oil spraying out of the dipstick. So what we had done is we had tie wrapped, we bent the dipstick and we tie wrapped it to this that was bolted on the valve cover. And that sort of fixed it. I still had oil coming out. And then I rerouted my catch can differently and it seemed to have helped. But I figured might as well do a leak down test just to make sure that the rings are sealed properly before I take the heads off and everything and strip this engine to check out, what caused the bearings to get all worn out. Then after that, I'm going to put it on the other engine stand, flip it upside down, take the pan off and inspect the rest. So let's remove the valve covers, put the first piston at TDC, and do a leak down test. Another problem that I had that I forgot to say is just before the first start of the LS, my fuel pump was making some weird noises. Now I actually have two fuel pumps. I have a lift pump that siphons the fuel out of the fuel cell. And then I have a high pressure pump. I had a Weldon pump, which I'll show you right now, for the high pressure. Now what happened was the high pressure Weldon pump actually failed. So it was like going on and off and on and off, and the pressures were fluctuating like crazy. My gauge was saying sometimes it was saying 40 PSI, sometimes it was saying 30, then 25, then 4. And anyways, long story short, the Weldon pump that's right here actually failed. Now, I ended up switching it out. I switched to an AEM because I don't need that strong of a pump for the LS, especially that I'm not forced induction. But it made me think, if you remember my old video of the S13 with the SR20, that I have low compression on one of the cylinders. That motor used to be in this car. Obviously that pump was in this car. I'm wondering if the last time I went drifting with the car, the pump was failing while I was drifting and I was running out of fuel. And an engine that runs out of fuel when you're at high RPM is no good. You can melt a piston. So I could very possibly have damaged one of the pistons, a cracked ringland or a melted piston, and that's why I have low compression. Hopefully if I have time, I'm going to pull the motor this winter and take it apart and inspect it, but very well that might have happened. All right, so I had to switch up my setup because my regular compressor won't even go to 100 PSI and go to the 0 mark. See, now the 0 mark is not even set. Okay, now we're at 0. So it's, I don't know, I'm sure every motor is different, but it's not easy to find top dead center on my motor, because if you're not perfectly centered, it's gonna either want to turn the crank backwards or forward. So I found a trick to get TDC, and here's an example. All right, so as you can see, it's set to 0. We're gonna connect this hose to the cylinder here, and we're gonna see the leak down. And here we're getting roughly like 12, 13%. So that's good. So now I have to do it for every single cylinder. I'm gonna note it, and then I'm gonna let you guys know what the results are. All right, so here are the results. We have 12%, 13%, 11%, 10%, 10%, 15, 15, 10. So that's good. So I honestly think the problem that I was having was, I was getting compression in the block. So the dipstick was popping, it was spraying oil. But then I remembered the last time I went drifting, I did one change. I fixed something in the catch can and I added a filter where the valve cover, the cap, the valve cover, the oil cap goes. I added a filter here, and then no more problems. No more problems after that. So I'm guessing the engine wasn't able to take any air. It was throwing it out. Anyways, all I know is the leak down test is good, so I don't have to worry about that. So it's probably just the routing of the catch can. So now we could strip the engine, take the heads off, take the covers off, take the valve, the oil pan off, and we'll see what's going on, why the bearings got worn out. Well, that's a first. I was trying to remove the crank pulley bolt. Yes, I was not using an impact socket. I only have a chrome 24 socket, and I was using my big electric impact, and I just saw the thing turn, the socket turn, but not the bolt. I was like, oh no, please don't tell me I didn't strip the bolt. Ends up I stripped the socket. So the socket broke in 3 spots. So yeah, that's my fault. So I ran over to my parents and I took my dad's 24 impact socket, and I was also not able to, I was sitting there for a while with the impact and I didn't want to get the bolt loose. I think that thing is torqued like 250 foot-pounds. So I reinstalled the flywheel, and I also, when I was at my father's, I took back one of the tools that I bought, which locks the flywheel right here. It bolts with a starter bolt and it locks the flywheel. So I took a big breaker bar and I extended it with the jack handle, and it was still pretty hard, but I managed to loosen it. So that's done. So now I have, Ardo lent me his tool, because you need a special puller. You can't use a regular puller to pull the crank pulley. It actually goes from the center and it's like crow's feet that pulls it out. So we're going to do that right now. Of course, as per usual, my GoPro ran out of battery. So I removed the rockers and the push rods on both sides. Now I will be loosening all the head bolts, removing that and removing the heads and laying them right here. Always good to, put everything exactly the way it goes in the engine, push rods. I see a lot of people on YouTube, they just all mix them up. I put them in the order, so like that, I'm gonna put them back in the order. Probably doesn't matter, but always better to take the precaution, and I know what's the front of the engine. Alrighty, so the first head has been removed. It's right here, and we are going to attack the second head. Alrighty, another 10 minutes and the other head was off. Honestly, working on an LS is really easy. As much as an SR20 is easy to work on, an LS, once you know what you're doing, do a bit of research online, very, very easy. I think I'm gonna call it a night now because it's pretty late. Tomorrow I'm going snowmobiling at my girlfriend's. So I think I'm gonna clean up, call it a night. And next time I'll be putting the engine on the other stand so I can flip it upside down and take the pan off, take the front and rear covers off, and do some inspecting. So have a good night. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you guys later.